Saturday morning for our artist talk with, of course, Jay Feather, who I think we all know very well. Some of us know very, very well, and who has his exhibition Something Kind of Wonderful open last night in the Vault. So I will start today by acknowledging that we are gathered on the lands of the Tarrabillang Bunda, Gurang Bailey peoples. I'd like to acknowledge the thousands of generations of culture that have shaped this land on which we're gathered. Pay my respects to elders past and present and any First Nations people joining us here today. Jay, how lovely to have you back at the gallery. Yay! So for those who might remember, the last time you had your work with us was nearly 12 months ago when you did the huge mural for Bloom that sat across the back wall. Did anyone see that piece last year? It's a stunning piece. It was very, very difficult to paint over it. I know we had a lot of outcry over it. We had to do it. But I said to Jay, it still exists in there somewhere. There'll be an archaeological dig here in a long time. And it'll be like when they found those amazing mosaics in place. I'll go, look what we discovered. And there'll be a matching one in here.
Well, I was worried about the painter trying to get that off because there was oil pastel on there and all kinds of stuff. So they did a good job. They did it nice and smooth. So textured spray paint and
absolutely. So Jay, we're going to just have a bit of a chat. It's very conversational today. Please, if you have questions, I have quite a few questions and things to talk about with Jay, but also if you have questions, please jump in and ask them. It really is about having a conversation. Our artist talk's always a great opportunity to hear from the artist and ask those questions you might not normally get to know. We'll get to hear stories behind the artwork. So please don't hold back this morning. Okay. Jay, we're going to start talking a little bit about Something Kind of Wonderful, which I have to say, Jay just commented too, the loveliest thing is talking about her exhibition as we hear little excited giggles coming out of there from the little one enjoying it. It's perfect. No, not at all. So, Jay, talk to us about what the premise of the exhibition is.
So the idea initially was I wanted to create some warmth, summer and winter, so that was my idea when I started, and I wanted to make it a vibrant, immersive space. So I wanted to make it bright. Often I've been in the vault, and you often go in, but you might not stay a while inside there. So I wanted to make sure that people could enjoy the space and maybe stay a little bit longer in there. So that was my initial thoughts. And then it evolved from there.
Your process of working, we'll talk about your studio practice, but your process of working large scale and working in gallery spaces is really interesting to watch. And we have done a time lapse of this latest paper. We also did it of Bloom as well. You come in not with a lot of a plan. No. But it evolves so quickly in the space. Can you just talk a bit about your process?
So with Bloom, I do have the colours. So I have chosen the colours, obviously. So I have an idea of my colour palette and what colours I want to use. But really, it just evolves organically on how I'm feeling on that day. So I might I'll definitely start with a few block colours and put them in, and then as shapes start forming on the wall, I start working with those shapes. So I'm just keep on layering and just developing whatever I see in the work that's happening. And it's all very fast. I find if I go slow, then I don't get the right feel. So I don't know, I do work quite quickly.
You're an energetic artist to watch.
Especially on fast forward, it's even more fun. But once you do the time lapse, it's once you find all the shapes and once I find all the shapes, I'm pretty good then. I know where I'm going with the work. It's hard. It is hard to describe, and I have been trying to think of how to describe it better to people, because I don't think people understand how that process sometimes works.
I think it is hard to describe. It's different often when we see with artists working on large scales. They're very much about mapping, upsizing, working on that, and yet yours is very organic. It's a different style to how I've seen other artists work, and it feels in that you are able to respond to the space a lot more. Would you say that?
Oh, definitely, because it's I'm feeling what I'm feeling at the time, and then it becomes the painting. And that's the same with my paintings, my other paintings that I do as well. I also paint with oils and things like that. So they're all either memories of somewhere I've been, and then I'm putting it into the work at the time.
So moving into the large scale works, how does that change? Has that changed your studio practice?
Yes. So I started really small. This was years ago when I had my first son. So I started just working on little canvases, and then it got slightly bigger, and now I find it very difficult. Like, I still do some little works, but I find them more difficult than doing a big, large scale painting than the small work. So I really enjoy it. So being able to paint in this space was a complete joy for me. When am I ever going to get such an unusual space to work in? And also be able to, go up the walls and then on the roof, and all that sort of stuff. So, so that was just pure joy in there. So I think that hopefully comes out with what the piece is in there as well. Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit. I know a few of us know the story, but about your practice and your career as an artist, because it has, it's been a while you've been practicing now.
Yeah.
And it has changed. So
that's fine. I studied at TAFE in Brisbane. There was an old hangar at South Bay that TAFE owned, and it was like an old plane where they repaired planes or something. It does not there anymore. It's Stanley Street, because it's all changed now. There was this massive shed, so that was amazing. TAFE that back then was great. It was when I was 17. This is nearly 20 years old, nearly 40 next year. But so that was great. So I did that because I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school, and just enjoyed that for 2 years, and then thought I better get a real job. So I went and got a real, because I thought, there's no money, I'm never going to get any money from painting or doing anything, and in the arts. So went and worked elsewhere, and then went to Cairns later on when I was 27, and then decided to do a creative industries degree. So I finished off my degree there, and then it just did a lot of installation things, and I enjoy installation art as well. That's something else I don't do much of, but I do enjoy doing things on mass, and I'd love to do more of that, but that's maybe later on down the track. But so I did that, and then had children, which has enabled me to work more in my own studio at home. So that's really, helped me get to this where I am now. So when my firstborn was asleep, I just paint, and then just continue, and still now. So I have my second son, Max, and so I paint when he goes to sleep, basically, and obviously on weekends if I can get some time painting. So so that's my practice there. I call it a studio, but then I just realised the other day it's actually just a shed, and I'm just in a shed. Because I said to someone, that's something about my studio, and then I thought, no, that's silly. I'm just literally in a shed underneath our house now. I did have a shipping container studio, and that was at our house in Bundaberg, but we had to sell our house, so the container went as well. It got sold because now we're in a smaller place in Cleveland. So I'm in the garage, but I painted the door pink. I did paint the garage door pastel pink, so it feels like something special. There's a bit of light that goes in there, so as long as there's light, that you can paint it there. So
yeah. And what about for you? There was a different sort of also. Do you feel, and maybe just from outside point of view, there was also quite a strong uptake of you in a commercial sense as well. How did that change your practice? How did that impact on your arts practice as well?
Well, it definitely has an impact. It was a very positive one, because that sort of kept me going, because then I'm like, okay, I'm selling, so I keep making, and so that was really great. It was an amazing opportunity to be, I was contacted through Instagram when I first started on Instagram. This is when I was doing only small-ish paintings, so contacted by a gallery, and then I started selling to that gallery quite regularly, and yeah, and from there I've got other stores and other things so that I'm really grateful for. And but I think and as the years have gone on, I think my work's become a bit more abstracted now. Like it was I definitely enjoy the florals and doing painting and all that sorts of things, but I think I'm just changing a little bit. And you've probably seen in the vault, it's a bit more figurative and a bit more abstracted, but yeah, it's where sort of the direction I'm going in at the moment, but I can't say that will be forever because it's just how I'm feeling at the time, just changing constantly.
Well, I think that's what the journey of an artist is, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not stayed, and the difference in this work, I don't know if anyone else knows, but the difference in this work compared to the Bloom work, obviously we'll sort of really different focus on the works, but this feels a lot looser.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know, does anyone else feel the same? It
More
feels
open, more negative space.
more, absolutely. Not that, because there was I know last year when I was watching your work, you did have that sense of wanting to fill the space.
Oh,
fill the space, yeah, absolutely.
And this one I paired that because the space is so cumbersome, like, it's all around you, and I thought if I keep on feeling it might feel too much. I mean, it could have been great as well. I don't know if I kept on going with what would I have, but I did want to keep some negative space because when you're in there as well, I don't know, I wanted to keep it as more of a calm, like a happy, I know, this calm to me, other people might think it's, not, but that's what I feel in there. But other people, and I don't know what all your thoughts were, but you can feel a different way when you go into a space. Like I see all the shapes I've made and the people I've put in there, but other people might see something different, in the space, and that's what it's intended to be. You're meant to feel whatever you feel in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to ask it out to the audience. How did people feel about the space when they walked in? It's always great to hear feedback. Although, I guess for artists as well.
Yeah, it is very calming. It takes you to a different place.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was at the beach and I was just on grass. Yeah. Like you would be at the beach.
Yeah,
Especially when I saw that sand and that sort of water all together.
Yeah.
The surprise
Nice
sand
little touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else have any feelings about the space? Happy? Yeah. I like that. One of the things I like about it is that and one of the lovely things about the vault, and I think that you've capitalised on it, Jay, is that because the doorway's quite narrow, and it's obviously a lot narrower than the rest of the space, you just get a glimpse of it. So you don't actually get the full idea of what Jay's created until you're in that space. And it's really like I don't know, maybe this now is going to sound a bit too gallery directorish, which I don't mean it to sound at all, because I normally don't sound like that, but the doorway just frames like a little artwork in itself, and it feels like you're just seeing this little snippet, and then you can actually walk into the artwork. Is how I feel when I go into that space, which I really like.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And I think there's a thing about, Jay, you said it then about when to stop. Because I know that was your worry with Bloom. You felt that you just had to keep adding, and then I don't know, maybe need to add a bit more. And you were really definite on when to stop with this one.
I was.
You were really definite. I in that years, it was really interesting to watch. And then we also talked about, talked about some other elements in there about, we looked at a projection over the top, we looked at adding buckets and spades and that.
I did have a lot of ideas for the space because it is such an amazing space. Like I actually collected I don't know, 200 other things for this space. I was thinking, I could put this, and I went to reverse garbage, and it's such a cool place that it's got so many ideas going on in itself.
We need to do a quick plug for reverse garbage. They are amazing.
I got this dress from there, and then I bought 100 floral leaves and things. So I thought, I could put that in, and then so I did have lots of ideas, and it was actually a struggle trying to narrow it down for the vault because it is such a special space. So. And then I used the silk in there eventually to give it a different, have another element and have the movement there from, just to get another element in because it is all the walls, and I just wanted some softness in there as well. And then adding the pencils to invite people to do what they want with that space. Well, I kept some of the walls more, but I kept that entrance wall a bit plainer because I knew I want people to also enjoy the space and draw in there and feel like they're a part of it as well. So, and it was funny to watch on the opening night because people didn't really know what to do. That was just like they were just hanging crayons and, you know, and I think my mum was standing there, no, you can draw, just get on there, just start drawing.
They're constantly telling
I'd be
that.
adding little marks around some blue bombs.
Oh, nice.
And ladies came in and said, are you allowed to do that? And I said, yes.
But the kids, of course, just go straight for it, so I love that as well. It's just
And there's not many artists that will let you add to the work as you're in the space. So I like that. I love the openness of you to people engaging with your work.
Yeah, and this is a temporary piece, so, you know, I like inviting people to also play in there and enjoy that they can also write on the wall and have some element involved in, you know, in the artwork. So,
And we often talk, and I've had the pleasure of working with Jay before at the gallery, so she does have a background also working here. And I think one of the things we talk about so much in galleries is that, and it's something I've really tried, and while I've been directing, just break down a bit of that, you know, the what's the word about it? You know, the elitism about galleries. You know, it's all very look and don't touch and don't engage type of thing. So we're really, as a gallery team, really aware now of trying to get people to engage more with the work. So having, and it's, I mean, obviously we've got a touring exhibition we're sitting in now, and you probably don't really want to touch the photographs anyway, but you know, there is some level of engagement there. But then putting an exhibition like yours in there where you can touch, and people are like, people think, oh, I actually can. I can touch the silks. I can wrap them and move them
around, and you can jump in the sand as my sons did and squish the whole pile. It was actually up and it was quite high before we jumped on, but that's good. Like,
there was a lovely little boy there last time who spent his whole night.
He had his own little digger.
He brought his own digger and he just spent the whole night digging.
And his name was Art, so I'm just like, his name is Art.
His name is Art.
And he was in that space all night last night. We should have just had a time lapse on him, just like the whole time jumping, playing.
He was devastated to have to leave. And I think, Jay, when you talked about this space, it was having that varied audience to it, and that was important to you when you were thinking about the space.
I think I just wanted people to stay and enjoy and be in there, and then I knew that, like, I'd hope that kids would want to be in there as well, and then adults would want to stay a bit longer in there as well with their children and enjoy it.
And you've got, I mean, you know yourself, taking, you know, when you take your kids, and I've got a 10-year-old, my boy's about the same age as Hudson, so, you know, you just constantly don't want to do, or don't touch hands in your pockets, you know, and so it's nice when they can go in and they can touch and be part of it. And to be honest though, I'm going to say the people who touch things the most are always adults. Like, always, without hands down. We've got Chloe Smith's works upstairs, which are a no touch just because they are textile works. But when we had her works in the gallery, it was adults every time. Don't put the banana down, it's not a touching exhibition as well.
I've got a good friend of mine because I do oil paintings, and I just recently had a show, and I've got a good friend that likes to touch the whole painting, and she doesn't realise that you're not actually supposed to do that. You know? And I said, don't touch that one, it's actually still wet. Like, it was actually in the show and it was still, and she's like, but she loves to just touch the whole painting like this, and that's a no-no.
It's quite textural, they really feel it. So we will say completely you can touch the walls, everything is dry, everything is, you may come off with a little bit of glitter on yourself, but that just adds to the experience.
I have put oil pastels, there is some glitter paint in there, spray, and there's also textured spray paint, so I've added that in as well. I do like having a little bit of texture as well, like it's like, because oil paint is quite thick and it's so luscious and stuff, I love that in my paintings, so it's nice. Like with the Bloom exhibition, I had more of those layers and textures so you could see it and, you know, want to touch it. So
And because, Jay, talk us through, I mean, I don't know if anyone else is interested, but I always love hearing the materials side of things. Is anyone else interested if we discuss that a bit? And I love watching you and what you bring in. So talk to us, because when you work on a canvas, you predominantly work with what materials?
Polycotton.
And oil.
Staple gun to the wall and paint. And then you get it framed later on.
And that's oil paint mostly work on?
So sometimes I start with acrylic and then mainly layer them with oil. So I'm doing a lot more oil now.
Yeah.
So I started off mainly acrylics and just a bit of pastel like work, but now I just love oil so much, even though it doesn't love my hands and it's really smelly and I'm gassing myself all the time. So but anyway.
Why you like oils?
It's just a different look on the canvas, and it's more luscious. Like it's just got the colours are, I feel, more vibrant, can be more vibrant with oil. Like I don't know, but that's just my opinion. Other people might just.
Does it flow better? On your paint when you do it?
I don't know. You can get flow acrylics. You can, but I do make the oil paint more runny and use different mediums to get it to be runny as well, and I do love inks on top of that as well, like that's acrylic, so just because that also is that runny sort of texture. But so I do mix at times, but not mixed together, but I have that on the canvas as oil and acrylic on there. So some people might think that's not right, but it is great, like to add. I don't know if there's any other painters here that, no Julia's. But putting the two together is good. Okay.
Yeah, and everyone's aware when we talk about oils, we're talking about with oil paints, just in case. I only ask because sometimes people never say, and then I thought, you should have asked that question because everyone else is probably thinking it. So So what's the process then when very different materials for when you're working large scale?
Well, this one, obviously I'm using house paint, interior house paint, and but with the marks that like all the runny marks, I just watered it down, and it was great. It was fun. That's when I was having the most fun. So watered down, then I could get the runny marks, and it's much easier to flow with. You've got like that thick, paint. So they were my base sort of colours, and then all the extra detail, I just made that paint a bit runnier and popped it up there. So inside is, I don't know if you've seen, but there's lots of figures, there's lots of people doing stuff. The big silk pieces have people on them, whether it's a person with shell head or, so there's a Birdman sort of that I'm seeing right now. The first one is sort of like hanging out, but that's what I see, but you might see something else. But lots of people without like actual faces, so that's a bit strange. But I thought to myself, why am I painting that? But but that was just what I was feeling, and I sort of like that. It's like these, they're not actual. You can't see their face, but they're all hanging out in there, and they're hanging out with you when you're in there, and
they're
enjoying the space.
Figures. Did people notice the figures in there? Yeah, great. And if you haven't, that's okay too.
Yeah,
back and have
a look.
And I think but you do abstract the figures as well, which I think fits with your style.
Yeah.
And you work like with oil pastels as well, like chalk spray. Spray paint. Glitter.
Yeah. So I left the spray till the last minute because I gassed out the whole gallery. Everyone was in the fumes. I had my mask on, but everyone out here didn't really. They were still hanging paintings out here, and I'm sorry, everyone.
There's a bit of a crooked hang on that's when Jay was spray painting the walls.
I just added a few of those touches in left at the end. So
So Jay, with your practice, where do you see it going? Like what, if you, and I know that's always a difficult question, but where does your interest lie? Where would you love to drive your practice?
Well, just in a sort of short-term sense, I have got a few different projects happening, in August. So I'm doing the Stradbroke Island Arts Trail, because now we're living in Cleveland. Stradbroke Island's very close and accessible to us. So, and we've been over a few times, so I really love it there. So I think you'll probably see more Stradbroke Island inspired paintings and things coming out of my studio. And then I'm doing the Affordable Art Fair in Sydney with one of my galleries, so that will be good. That's also in August. So
You've done that before, haven't
yeah,
you?
so I did Melbourne. They took
Yeah.
2 big paintings of mine there, so that was nice. Yeah, but I've been told they can't take any big paintings this time. Too cumbersome. They only have a very small booth. It's all booths, so it's very, you know.
And when she
small.
says big, she means big.
Yeah, so anyway, so I better make some smaller pieces now, but no, so I've got that, so that's in the immediate. Obviously long term, I haven't really thought of it. I haven't thought where I'm going. I think it's just everything's already happened organically, so it's just you know, and everything's where it's meant to be, I think, at this time. I haven't even thought long term, so I'm just enjoying the process, and as well, I have small children, so that's always going to limit my ability to put more and more into my work. So this is where I'm at right now, and maybe when my kids are older, I will be able to take on residencies. I would love to do something like that, but I don't think they often take into account, well, actually, you know, you've got a family to look after. So that's why it's very hard to do things like a residency for like a month, you know. Why don't they have like a 3-day weekend residency? I don't do that, because I can, you know how quick I can pay. So I'm like, I can spend 3 days, you know, that's a good amount of time for, you know, someone like me with children and, you know, trying to do the juggle of everything to be able to do something like that.
I think you bring that up really well, Jay, and I know you and I have talked about it privately before. I think, you know, the art world, it's being an artist or working as well, it's not very geared to having families or having commitments. So it is often quite a solitary, you know, the work. And I'm talking about now in the sense of opportunities. It is very hard to take some of those opportunities up.
Definitely, because I do see them all advertised for, you know, and I think, wouldn't that be amazing? Or working in an amazing space to produce works. So maybe that's, you know, further down the track. So that would be nice. To look forward to.
I like that you said about installation though, because I would, you know, I think that the way you work is so works for installation. So installation, for those who aren't aware, is when an artist responds to a space. So a gallery invites an artist in with no preconceived idea about, when we know their practice, but we don't necessarily know what they're going to produce for us, and they have to respond to the space that we give them. So we have committed our vault space generally as an installation space. So generally you will always see artists in there who have created installations. Every now and again it's not, but most of the time it's an artist responding to the space, or an artist responding to what's in Gallery 1. They have that's a response exhibition in there. So I love it, because it's becoming more prevalent, but there's still not a lot of artists working in that area. But it fits so well with the way you work.
Well, I once did, I don't know if you saw it, or you might have, it was a while ago on Bundaberg Beach, and collected it. I think that's when we first moved here. I just wanted to do an installation, so I collected like 200 plates. And did you help me with that? No. But I had a few people just like came down to the beach, and we were putting the plates in a spiral, and took photos of that, and it was fun. So I do enjoy it, but I guess that's time consuming, and in the sense of it's not really, but like with little ones again, you know, it's like I only had one child then, so a bit easier for me to just now. When they're older, I'll get them in on it. Like, okay, we're all just, you know, carting all this random stuff to a hill, and we're going to install something. When they've got muscles to hold all and drag it.
Well, you do need your working party if you're going to be an installation artist. Particularly if it's ephemeral and it's outside. You have a team.
So wait till they're a bit bigger.
But I think it's a really interesting area, because it just, you know, we talked about the way you work, and you do respond so well to what the space is. And it's a pleasure for me, from a gallery perspective, to work with someone that's so responsive and so joyous in their work. You are joyous to have in a space, and I was excited to get you back to work this year, and it's beautiful.
Well, it is like, I was talking about this to someone else, and just working, it is like a dopamine response. Like, I do love like being able to paint for an hour a day is like, you know, me on a high. Like I love it. Like it's just like the more you do it, then the more you want to do it.
Yeah.
So I like probably it's good that I do have a family because I, you know, probably could be a crazy lady like living in like the paint. Like, you know, you've actually got to stop, but I just love it so much. I would be in there all day long, and that might not be good for me. So that's that's really good that I have that.
I've watched her work when I've been down, when I was in Cleveland recently, and Max was in the sand pit outside, and I'm picking up washing. Jay's got the studio door open, and she just saw her work and went, dude.
Yeah, I wasn't meant to be
Literally,
painting
it
then.
was 1 hour
of
of, I'm in another zone.
Yeah.
Nothing else exists.
Yeah.
It was just going. And then we stopped. And
Yeah.
then it was like washing's in.
It's hard to do. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how she does it so quickly because I can't change that
It was
quickly.
just like that.
I guess you have to.
Yeah. It's just like, and I just see it dangerous going past my studio because then I'll just add a little bit and then I'm down there for 20 minutes and I'm like, I'm going to go back upstairs. So yeah, anyway. But yeah, you just try and steal bits of time wherever I can, you know, at the moment. So it's like, yeah, it's just what you have to do.
It's addictive.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's great. Yeah. And I'm so happy that I have that in my life. Like, you know, that I have that, you know, like love for, you know, and like, so this was just like a holiday. And same with Bloom. Like, it was like, you know, me just doing what I love, spending, like, you know, hours in time in there.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
I'm not familiar with any other work that you've done.
That's all
but did you have a different mindset, like a childlike mindset?
I think that's just, all my work is very, like,
Loose
abstracted and very, I don't know, just, it's all very loose, it's very expressive, and it's, I don't know how to
I think
describe
it's
this.
very reflective of your personality, not in a general way, but the joyousness of Jay's personality. And I've known Jay for quite a while now, and I think I always feel like her work is if you know, people talk about seeing colours with people. I think if you could see someone as artworks, Jay's artworks are her. I don't know. There's a few people in the room who know her well as well, but I do always feel that there's a beautiful energy around you that is her artwork. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
No, it's it's true. Yeah. Now we're going to take you back. I have to ask the question though. This is not the first time you've exhibited in the vault. Why don't you take us back to your first exhibition in there? They'll give you a little laugh.
So good. When I was 16, I did an installation in the vault. I think it was was there a tour? There was a touring Mambo exhibition.
Yeah.
And then Shelley Pisani saw my work at the school. She must have been selecting for Minister's Award.
Oh,
I'm glad my mum's here. I'm just like selecting for something.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got the details. Oh my god.
That's what mums come to these things for.
And Shelley thought the work would be great in the vault. So 16, and now I'm so old. I'm 30, nearly 39, and the funniest thing was that the piece I did install had sand, and then I didn't make the correlation until I'd already added the sand element in, and I was like, oh gosh, it's like, you know, history repeating itself. But that piece had like limbs and it had photography, and it was a really random piece. But again, it was an installation, so I've always loved that style. And then put the sand back in the vault as well. So it was really cool. And like, I loved the space then when I was younger. I was like, oh, this is such a cool, great space to be working in. And then, you know, having the space again, I'm like, oh, this is great. So
It's wonderful. I think it's fantastic. And it's good to see that response work. I'm excited to have it. One of the things we think about when we're scheduling exhibitions is the flow in the space. You know, I always want it to be, and we had quite a serious set of exhibitions last time, and the last suite of exhibitions, and this time it just feels like we've turned the joy up a little bit. You know, I mean, obviously this is, you know, it's photographs, but you know, it's 80s, 70s, 80s pub rock, and then Jay's exhibition just sits so beautifully alongside it. It's a really lovely match. I love
thank
it.
you for inviting me to, create in there.
Oh,
It's been
I'm thrilled
so
to
good.
I'm going to throw it open to the floor for some questions.
Oh, I was just going to say, you said you had that touch of sand back when you were 16.
Yeah.
Seeing it again is, to me, knowing you all these years, I walk in and I just see Jay, and I see your happiness and your great spirit and your positivity and life in general. So you feel happy. I feel happy walking in there, and that's a part of you that really touch there in that corner. And I just think, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So and bringing in with the pencils and that, it's that experience of your life as a mother as well. I see a touch of that too.
Yeah.
And I would just love to bring every kindergarten and preschool child into that room now and just go feel the art.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've actually got a group of 36 coming on Friday. So
They'll be sitting everywhere. The whole gallery.
Kindergarten.
They will be cursing me as well.
But I'm like you. I think it'll be really great. I'm looking forward to seeing adults and kids respond to it. I think it's going to be, we all need a little bit of joy in our life.
Yeah.
And I think your space brings that.
And that's what it is. Some of those bigger, beautiful paintings you've done, it brings that happiness back into your life. Because there's a lot of dark artworks out there. So then you see something so pretty and so beautiful, it brings back life is beautiful.
Gives you a little glimpse, doesn't it, about like a little window into happiness and joy, which is beautiful.
And I think, I don't watch the news at all, so that might help in when I paint. If I did, maybe it would be honestly, I don't know what's going on in the world. I just live in my own little bubble world with children and no news at all. So that helps, I guess, keeping the joy in your life.
Any other questions from the floor?
So, as a child, how did you were you always arting? Were you always drawing on the wall?
No, I don't think I was. I'm sorry, something's going on with my earring, but I wasn't really up until high school. But I do feel like I did live in a creative environment with my mum. She lives over there, and single mum, and mum was always involved in theatre. So I have reflected on how am I so into art and painting, and so I think from a young age, I was involved in different theatre things with mum. Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was one of the children or something.
You took art in grade 10 but didn't like your teacher. And then you took art in grade 11 because you didn't like accounting. Why would you want to do accounting?
No, I enjoyed seeing art. And then that's from there. And really great teacher.
Yeah, what was good, he let you explore whatever you wanted to explore.
Right.
And that room there, that was Russell Garrett. He allowed you that space to grow and feel and think about.
And then when we moved to the Hummock, he lived down the road, so I'd be running and I'm like, oh, there's no teacher. Now we moved away, but that's all right. But that was a nice connection.
Jay, your plates is on your cover photos on your business page.
And
shoes.
Old photos from back.
So they're the plates
What
was the shoes installation?
Oh, that was at James Cook University for, that was when I was doing my creative industries degree, and then I installed 300
shoes for every person that died in Christchurch.
Mum just tells stories.
She's
Get
great.
her up. So it was a very
How did you have those?
outdoors again on the grounds at JCU.
All pink and white.
Yeah, all white. I got a lot of offshore it was more of a darker installation, obviously.
You were maybe watching the news back then.
Yeah, that's right, obviously. So that was my darker time.
Something on you.
But also again, trying to connection with people. I want that. I don't know. It's a strong story there.
I like that question though about how your early childhood, because we do know that we know that children who engage with the arts before 8, and even if that's just engaging, come into a gallery talking about it, are more likely to engage in the arts later in life. I love hearing that story about living in a creative household, which I did as well, and so that then it fosters a love of that for us.
Yes,
are you aware of that with your? Sorry, I'm going to jump in my question. Are you aware of that with your boys?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And Hudson, my first, is very creative, and he does drama, so he loves acting, so he's doing that. So so it makes me so happy, and I hope that he does take that love of creative thinking and abstracted thinking into his adult years. So I'd be really happy to see that.
Yeah.
So I hope he does.
Because it's that thing, isn't it, with the arts? It's not just even if you don't end up becoming an artist, but that creative thinking process and what we learn being in the arts is it's actually so it's a skill set or life lesson that is actually valuable in so many fields.
Yes.
I think it's wonderful to see that. Yeah.
Can I just say too, we were really poor. I was a single parent and we were very, very, very poor. But going to galleries was free.
Yes.
So you could always go to amazing galleries. And if I was in Brisbane, we'd always go to Queensland Gallery and explore the galleries in Townsville or wherever we were, because it was a free activity with children.
I'm so glad you said that, because it should be. It's like libraries, you know, they should be free spaces, and that's, you know, I feel a responsibility then for our gallery to always put on things that are going to be different, engaging and thought-provoking, and have encouraged people to bring their kids and talk to them, and because it's a really important part of
and they do that more now. Like Queensland Gallery does that. Goma does that for the big
They
kids
do.
section.
Well, Goma's starting to do buy a lot of
They're going to all the
they're amazing.
And you're right about creativity being so important
Yeah.
for children, coming from teaching early childhood and primary teaching into high school, and then teaching early childhood studies to seniors.
Yeah.
It's teaching them to allow children to be creative.
Yes.
And it's a 21st century skill,
Yeah.
because the jobs that we're teaching children are not created yet.
Yeah,
and they
that's
don't have to create, and they need that creativity too in their
such a great point. Absolutely, and not so much in the probably since COVID, but we've been in the gallery quite involved in talking in schools about arts as a creative thought process and using that because of the skill set that it offers people. But like you said, people just think I'm going to do the arts, and then if I can't be an artist, what am I going to do? But it just offers so much more.
I do feel lucky as well, because that I have been able to sell pieces and be able to have this lifestyle where my husband does work. He works full time, so I am able to do this. Other artists may not be able to because it's still working and maybe a bit exhausted and won't be able to practice. So I am lucky that I have that. I have the time.
Any other questions for Jay? Yes.
When you started your art journey, because I know I paint and I sort of delved into different mediums, did you ever get a moment where you thought, I should be doing something else, or did you try anything else?
Do you mean in like the art sense, or like
in the art sense? Like I went along for a bit of a journey, and I cannot draw a face to save my life, and I used to think that I was never going to make it as an artist because I can't draw a face. I can't paint a face, I can't draw a face,
I think that's,
but I can do other things. And I always thought that I had to be able to do that to do art, and I won't get it done.
Well, I had that as a kid, I'm not good at art, or because I couldn't draw technical drawings of things, and I think that's really instilled. I hope it's changing now, with children, but it is, it's sort of like you have to draw this, and then you're good at art, but no, not really. You can do there's so many other avenues, as we all know, to be creative. And I was the same. Until I was, in year 11 and doing installation, and thinking, there's another avenue I haven't thought about, and then I really loved installation. And then when I went to TAFE in Brisbane, again, I wasn't a painter, but then I did abstract paintings, and I was like, I love this, and I love the feel of it. I did lots of texture stuff, so I put a lot of sand and other things, and they were very. They were not as vibrant colours, and when TAFE has one of them somewhere in the building. They purchased one. Right at the end of the diploma, they purchased a painting.
Because she won the prize. The student
They were. Anyway, I wonder if it's still around. I do. I was like, where's that painting? It was a big one. It was big. It was like a metre and a half by a metre and a half. That's a huge painting. So they were all big then. It was like when I was in tape, but I think because I had the space to work big in that big hanger, it was like, yeah. And then when I started again, like after having kids, I just was small because I didn't have a space. So you just work it to your means in the kitchen or wherever you are. You just work on the dining table and you just keep going. But yeah, like, so it was great to be able to explore that because I wasn't, I'm not painting flat, like technical things. So
Yeah, it's just
you can still be so
interesting
creative.
listening to your mums. You had a really good creative person that you explored. It just sort of reminds me of a friend I know who is quite a good artist, and she's won different prizes. And it was interesting because a few years ago she was unsure about her painting, so she took it along to a fairly well-known art critic. And he stood there and he just looked at it and he said, "I give up painting." And she came away and she was in tears and she said to me, I don't think I'm good enough. She always thought she was never good enough. And she took it up later on in life, and I just said, don't listen to him. I said, because if you weren't good enough, why did that painting just sell?
Well, like everyone, sees everything differently. Like not everyone's going to love my work, and that's fine. Like I don't mind. And I'm the same. You look at, I can appreciate art though. Like if it's not what I love, like I can still appreciate what the artist has gone through to make that piece. So it's just like. So.
Do you get asked to do critique other people's work?
No, I haven't. No, I have never been a judge or anything like, or have never had. I've never done that. So I don't think I want to. Like I don't know. Like that's not. I just
it's very subjective.
Yeah,
and the arts is
very hard.
subjective. I mean, we all the same. It's we come with our own filters and how we look at things.
And my work from 4 years ago, like it's so different to now as well. So I might look back and go, look at that. At some of my works, I'm like, because you just develop and change. But then 3 years ago, I would have loved whatever I've made then. But it's interesting looking back at your works too. But sometimes you can find a gem looking back as well and go, oh, why did I throw that in the bin? Or why did I roll that up and throw it in a cupboard? And then you pull it out and go, oh, I love it. And then you work on it some more, So it's really,
I think that's one of the hard things about being an artist too, Jay, is that you really always, talk to artists about you have to put yourself out there. You are very exposed in a way with your art. I mean, people do come in and say they like, they don't like, and whatever. And so you are very aware that there is an exposure with that, and there's also a trust as well. When you are putting it in galleries, you put your work in quite a few galleries. Obviously, with us now, you've got to trust us to talk about your work and trust other people to. And there's a lot of exposure that artists have, and I feel for your friend because I've known other artists who've been through the same thing, and it's really heartbreaking. And I just really want to stuff that critic.
I think she has because she's won quite a few awards.
Right. Okay.
Every time she wins, and she wins when she least expects it, and I just think it's kind of like that silent. Well, he's not a good, it's not a matter of being a good or a bad painter, but it's like, well, she kept going. And she wanted to give up. And yet she was going to give up. And I just said to her, don't give up. So we had art days and we had artworks, and I kept saying, look, you've gone from this to that, and because she always said, I'm too old. And I just said, but if I'm looking at your painting, I don't know how old you are.
And that is a good point. I love the fact that, I can paint for as long as I can. So many years. There's no limit to, until I, can't. Even I get ailments in my hands, obviously, or, that's why my breathing still stays okay with all the chemicals I'm breathing in every day in my lungs. But, so that is it's nice to know that you can do it for so long.
What I like is that different art speaks to you personally in some way, and it could be the shape or the light, or the subject, or the colour. And this exhibition does the same thing. Like not every photograph you'll go, you won't have that response, but some you will just be like, and I want to see it again and again, and look for something else again. And some of Jay's work, I have that with some of her work, but not all of her work. And some I'll be like, I just want to meditate in that space, in that work. And then next time I want to meditate on that part of that work. And I'll notice something I didn't notice before. And that's really lovely. It's like it keeps giving back.
I mean, that's because my is busy, or does have lots of stuff in it, so there is something,
but
different.
Anything that your eye can fall on. You know, even like that portrait of Molly does something to you when you look at it. And so art has that capacity to do that for different people.
It does, absolutely. And sometimes it's always good to explore why we don't like works just as much as why we do. And it's sometimes the thing we put to people in this space that, I really don't like that. And we'll think, what is it? It's okay not to like things, but reflect on that.
Yeah. Beauty in the eye of the beholder.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's a very personal thing.
It's very personal, of
Beauty in the eye
course.
of the beholder. You know, I look at Molly and it just brings back a flood of memories. Of, you know, mostly good ones. And when it brings back those, but good ones, not just nothing to do with him either. You know, my friends at the time. And so an artwork, you can see something in that, and then it has a personal feeling for you. So it might be just the colours, like some of the colours Jay uses are just beautiful in the way they blend.
Absolutely.
And that would be a reminder of something else, that connection to something else.
Absolutely. I think the colour palette is beautiful, and I love how much you think about your colour palette when you work. Any other questions today for our artist Jay?
I think I absolutely hopeless at art growing up. I went to teachers' college. I was ridiculed by one of the art teachers. And when I retired from work, a friend wanted me to go to a workshop. And I said, well, I can't do anything. And what we had to do was, I think we glued stuff on fabrics and textures
like a
and
collage.
stuff. And so I was choosing, because I always enjoyed colour, and so I had all my nice colours and made up with it. And then they said, okay, get white paint over a lot. And then do a portrait. And mine was very childlike, the portrait, but it was still pretty good, you know. It had all this texture, and you know, I didn't have to prove anything, you know. And so the friend who invited me didn't go anymore, and I took up art.
Oh, fabulous.
And it's just in the last 12 or 18 months I've gone into abstract. And when you talk about going into the zone, you know, I can go hours and hours and hours. But I love the fact that you can start off with anything. You know, just a line, a blob of paint.
That's how I
I've
started
got the
this.
colours in my mind, like you said. You
start
know
with
what colour you wanted. And so boom, off you go. And I've had lots and lots of different people who've given me lessons, so I've got some basic ideas of balance and
But it's so nice to hear as well, like, you know, because like I think anyone can do this. Like you know, everyone's like, oh, it's a man, like, or you know, this, and I'm like, oh, I do still feel like anyone, if you just, you know, start and you create, like, you can make,
don't
like,
listen to
I don't know,
anyone
just
else.
enjoy the process. And I think
The
people have
process
that.
is lovely that you said that, and I think that's come out a bit today, which I really like. I think for you, the creating and the process is so much a part, and that's why they're such a reflection of you.
Yeah, and not having a preconceived idea of what the painting or what it's going to look like at the end. It's like I just never go in there. I just start and make the marks, and it all forms from there. And then you stand back and go, okay, I'm finished now, or like I did with this one. So not going in with this has to look like this. I think
You walk
I
out
could
of the
do it,
room.
and I wouldn't be able to do it if someone said you need to paint this. It would be a mess. Like it'd just be like
But I think that also is that intuitive style that we're looking for, and I think that's beautiful. Well, we might wrap up today's art talk. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming along. It's been absolutely wonderful. So, and please do take catalogues with you. Share them out amongst your friends and family and colleagues. Jay, of course, features on the front of this, and all created by our wonderful marketing officer Tony, who's here. And so please go out about the exhibition is with us until the end of August, and it's really wonderful to have Jay with us again in this space. So I really encourage you to go and please talk about the exhibitions in the community. Encourage people to come along and support our artists. Thank you. My pleasure.